Hi veil makers, do you want to learn how to make a beautiful peonies flower fascinator made out of organza fabric? So stay tuned, I'm going to show you how to make peonies petals out of organza fabric shaped with fire and centered with beautiful freshwater pearls and backed with a clip. Hi, this is Dorene Vandermeer. I'm a bridal milliner. I'm sharing all of my trade secrets with you, and one of them is how to make a fascinator. All of the supplies are in the description below, so why don't we just get started? All right, let's get started. We've got this beautiful flower. We're making this out of polyester, organza. It's super easy and a lot of fun too, because we're going to be actually melting the fabric. I recommend that you have your hair up and that you just kind of put flammable things out of the way, because we are going to be using a candle and fire. Here's a pattern. If you would like this, I'm going to make this available for you in the YouTube community. If you're a subscriber, you get this pattern. And we're going to be starting not with the large petal. This is for another project, but we're going to be starting with petal B. And we're going to be going petal B, C, D, E, F, and G. And that's what's going to make this beautiful flower. Let's start with petal B. One thing that's important about this pattern is I cut the petal on the grain. And the reason I do that is that it allows for the petal to cup. And that's what we want. We want it to cup. We don't want it to be, just all over the place. We actually want to direct the petal where we want it to go. We're going to do that with the fire. We're doing it with fire. Fire in the house. All right. I have my little kitchen tongs here. I'm using my hand fire for the big one because I literally am going to finesse this petal into the shape that I want. And don't put it near it. I'm just going to let the heat move it. And if you'll notice, even now the heat is moving that petal. And as I'm moving it, it's going to start arching towards the fire. You see that? And then you're going to just kind of wiggle it around as close as you can to the edge, but do not touch the fabric. We do not want the fabric singed. We're just wiggling. We're basically sculpting with fire. And we're bringing that petal in. You see that? Isn't that cool? You're just heating that up until it starts to turn. You see it turning? You have to be very patient. You do not want to singe this fabric. Coming in. Here it goes. Woo! Did it. All right. That is a perfectly curved petal. Isn't that nice? All right, let's do another one. You can see why I like to do the handheld, because I get more control. On the big ones, because they really are the shape of the flower, I really take my time with them. Okay, so there you go. And I'm just going to keep going on these large ones. All right, you get the idea. So the cupping of the base is really important for that open peonies. Now we're going to go to the C, and we're going to use the same technique on this because it's also the big one. But I want to show you the difference if I use a candle. And I'm going to use a candle for sure. So the same principle applies. It's just going to be a lot of heat coming off of there, and it's harder for me to control. And I do that more with the smaller ones because they go really fast. So there's a good one. So just keep your options open, just keep playing around with what works for you. It's much harder to control it. But on the center ones, I don't mind them to have kind of a little bit more like they just opened up. The outside ones, they're already open. They're already bloomed. And so those ones I like to control a little bit more with the actual lighter. So really the key is not to burn it, to get it to the heat. The heat is what's shaping this, not the flame. Obviously you have no heat without flame, but we're not letting the flame touch. We're letting the heat touch. And that's going to be the difference between a petal like this and a petal completely burned and ripped up and looking horrible. All right, and now with the smaller ones, like I said, I don't mind doing those on the candle, because they're just about to open. They're still not fully rounded, and we can just have a little bit more fun, go a little faster. All right. All right, I'm going to go finish up my piles. You go ahead and get your piles going. But again, the most important one is that base one. I'll see you in a moment. Now we've come to the fun part. We're going to assemble this beautiful little number. All right, I'm going to do a round piece of felt. I usually just trace it with one of my caps for my beads. This is a medium flower, so we don't want it to be too small, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making another round piece, and we're going to be putting a clip on the back for the fascinator. All right, so now set that down on your glue board, and this is just a piece of cardboard that I've covered in duct tape. And with your glue, and I like to use fabric tack, you're going to do a nice generous base of glue. Lay it down and begin to build your flower. So if you remember, I have a little glue tab there, and that is by design. What we're going to do is I'm going to do 4 of these like this, right on that little glue, and I'm going to pick the 4 of my best. This one could go a little further in. Just now's the time to move them if they're not quite right. There we go. And I like when they overlap, just like a real peonies. We're trying, obviously this is not a real peonies, but we're trying to mimic one. And now I'm going to take another one and see where this meets here. That's where I'm placing this one. And now we're going to do 3. I'm going to find some good cuppers. I keep the fire handy because I may need one. There's not one that I like to finish up this last part, so I'm going to go ahead and just burn up one real quick. And then we'll do 3. Push that down, it's still wet, and now we can put a little bit more glue for the next step. And because peonies are very full, I'm going to keep going with the ones that didn't quite make the cut for the nice cupping, but they still are cupping. You notice they have a little bit more of personality actually, which I love, because that's what starts to happen. The flower starts to, it forms and then it pulls out, and then boom, you've got a flower. So now we're going to do 3 more. And I'm basically tearing them to that line there. All right, and now we're going to do, I think we're on to letter C. And here I've got my little letter C ones. They cupped really nice. And again, going towards, see how these come here? We're going to go right here. Shaping it so it feels random, but it's not. We're actually guiding it and directing it. All right, here's another one. All right, we're going to reload the center. We're moving to letter D. And some of these didn't get quite rounded. And I like as they go in, they start to close in. You know how those beautiful peonies have those buds? I love those buds. Those sometimes are just as beautiful as the open ones. So you see that middle in there starting to open. There's 3 of the D there. Now I'm going to go to E. And now the last 2 are the smaller ones, and we're going to just put a little extra glue again. And you can put more if you want, or less, it's up to you. They're the hardest to get in there because there's so much glue and your fingers are getting wet with the glue, and you just have to kind of roll the glue off your fingers like that, and then grab another one. All right, we are done. Now, if you like the shape of that, if you want to put more petals around, you can. You can adjust them because they're still wet. So now's a good time to play around with it. But I really like the center of that. I like how it's going in on itself. We're going to clean this up, and I'm going to show you how to make a center. Now we are going to center your beautiful flower. There's lots of options for that. One of mine that I do and I'm known for is my beaded centers. My beaded centers are basically made from a center of felt that I then bead into these beautiful little beaded centers. So when you're making a beaded bauble, these are some of the baubles that I make. And what I love to do with these is add color. You can put like purples and golds and stuff. Whatever is your color in your wedding, you can throw it into the center of this flower. It's a lot of fun. Another fun way to do it is center it with a little button. And that's done. You can do a little mother of pearl sew through button. And what's fun with that is you can put blue thread, something blue. Come on, that's so cute. And then there's these crystal buttons you can get. They also have shanks, but what I do is I like the ones that have little openings in them, and I can put those in here And I can actually bead around them as well. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful one with the freshwater pearls and the Swarovski. Super easy. All right, to start the bauble, I basically take some felt, I cut it in half, I glue it, and once you glue it, you want to finish this process because it's very hard once it dries. I mean, you can still sew through it, but it makes it more difficult. And I'm cutting around the curve of my thumb for this size. If I was doing smaller, I might do the tip of my finger. And there's just lots of ways to cut a circle, so just find a way that's right for you. And I'm not wanting it to be too big. All right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take, what size? These are 6 and 7 mm, and I'm going to make a little daisy-like circle. So first you want to center right in the middle, and I usually like to land it down before I sew it. See how it looks? It looks good. And now I've got my center. It's nice and round. It looks perfect. Now notice here that I'm holding the thread underneath, so that keeps that in place while I'm coming up next to it, right kind of under and up. Still holding the thread, still holding, and then I lock it. And I'm going to grab another one. See how that looks. And since freshwater pearls are not as uniform, it's okay. It kind of looks cool. And if I were you, I would just do these over and over again until you feel comfortable with it. There's just so many variations you can do, my word. I have thousands of beads, thousands. Someday I'll pull them out and show them to you. Just so many beautiful beads I've imported from all over, and I have used nearly all of them in one way or another. All right, I'm gonna continue to go around to create my daisy. You see it's starting to form. All right, our little daisy is born. Isn't that great? Boom, 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 done. Now we can take that up another notch, make it even bigger by doing another round this way. But what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to do some Swarovski in there, and that's going to just kind of add another depth to it to kind of look like the center of a flower, which is never perfect, but it definitely is systematic, right? There's that roundedness to it. If you look at them really close, they don't look random, they look beautiful. And then I'm just going to, in each of these little corners here, I'm going to put a little Swarovski, and this is a 4 mm size Swarovski. It is systematic in its process to make it look like it was natural. And if you don't want to do the beading, no worries, you can just throw a button on it. Now we have those little beads on the side. I'm going to put another one right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put one here, 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 and here. So there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, it's a good time to kind of get everything back in whack. What I'm going to show you now is how I put little crystals in there as well. These are little AB Swarovski crystals, and I'm just going to put a few in there. And what I'm trying to do is find the other vacant spots. See, there's a little vacant hole there. I'm filling that with a crystal. And there is a moment when you're doing these baubles, they just feel like a hot mess, but keep pushing through it, because if you keep your tension correct, you're not pulling too tightly when you put your next bead on, you're keeping everybody in line, it all lines up at the end. It's magical. Look at that. Just added sparkle. Put one right here. All right, so there's 3 little Swarovski in there. Lovely, right? Now I'm going to add a 3 mm. I call this a filler bead. So now my filler beads are the smaller, tinier beads and seed beads. And these are glass Japanese seed beads. And then again, I'm finding those little pockets, those little empty pockets. Not wanting it to be perfect, but I want it to be balanced. That beautiful? And we can do one more filler bead, and that'll be the glass seed beads. And what I'm going to do is I put 3 of these together to create a little string, and then I'll then fill in little areas. And this is a great place to put color because seed beads are so tiny, and you see how that filled in that little area there. And people are going to wonder how you did it. How did you make that center? Well, I know a class. Share my class with them. All right, I think we're done. I think it's a nice medium-sized little bauble that we're going to put in the center. And now that you have that all done, what you're going to do is you're going to turn that over. You're going to take it and center it inside of your flower. And we're going to see how it looks before we glue it in. And if you like the size, if you want it to be bigger, you can add more, but that looks like a really nice little size. Isn't that lovely? Just so perfect. Now what you're going to do is you're going to pull this up just slightly, turn it over, put a dab of glue, and then recenter that, and we're going to sew it in. And then turn it over and lock it in. Isn't that nice? The center is in. It looks so pretty. Now I'm going to show you how to make one of these little stamas that I have in there. I'm going to take my fishing line. I've got some old fishing line. This is the same fishing line I use to gather my veils. And I cut a small piece off. And then what I do is I put a little bit of glue on the tip like this. Nice little dollop of glue. I put my crystal on the end. Another little dollop of glue at the tip. And I put a tiny seed bead. And there it is, and that'll dry. I usually just line them up, let them dry, and then I put them in. But what I would do now, after it's all dry, is I'd put some glue on there, and I'd take it and I would just stick it right inside so that that little stama is sticking up with that crystal, kind of giving it a little bit more interest. That lovely? And I might do like maybe 5 or 6, you know, just it depends on you. You could do 3. So the back is pretty simple. We're going to be basically doing the same thing. We're going to make a round circle. Okay, so you're going to cut another piece of felt, and what I like to do is decorate the fabric a little bit because this is seen, this part. So this is going to be the part where I'm going to be laying the clip, and you can just put some lace. I've got some netting lace here that I'm going to put on there. I'm just going to cover that up. I use a little cap here, and now I'm going to go around that cap. And there's your little tip on how to make that pretty. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my clip and I'm going to put a little bit of bead of glue here. And I do this with all of my fascinators. My base might be different, but this is the technique I use to fasten all of them. And now I just lay that on there, securing that on. I always have glue on my hands. My hands are not the most beautiful, but they're working hands. Now with that glued in, I'm going to open it very slowly so it doesn't pop up, and I'm going to take my needle and right next to it, right there, I'm going to, while it's open, I'm going to go around the base, just like that. So basically I'm sewing this bottom part down. And I go all the way to the tip because I don't want that to come up. Even though there is the glue on there, I just want to make sure that it's very secure. That is good and secure, and then I just knot it back, get my glue. And I love adding a signature, and I always love to put a little pearl or a little crystal on each side. That just is like a little signature that says, I made this for you. I care about what it looks like from the front and the back. And this is just a little flat back pearl, the same pearls that I used to put on the body of the veil. And you can see that in Let's Get Crystallized. And then if there's any, like, see how that didn't quite adhere, no worries. Just go in there and add a little bit more glue into that pocket and push it down. You could do this organza in different colors. If you wanted to do them for your attendants, you can do them in red and pink. It doesn't matter. Organza is what you're looking at. So find a polyester organza in a color that you love and make beautiful little flowers with it. Now that you've made your beautiful fascinator, how about you check out this tutorial on French netting veils, and you will learn how to put a French netting veil with a fascinator. See you later, veil makers.